For the millions of Command & Conquer fans around the world, we got a present for you.
Reinforcements en route.
Command & Conquer Renegade was the first and only title in the franchise that is a shooter game. It was met with mixed reviews by critics. Some praised it for remaining true to the source material, while others panned it for bad AI and glitchy gameplay. As much as I love Command & Conquer Renegade, I can't help but agree with both the good and the bad points, at least when it comes to the single-player campaign, that is. The story is mediocre, the AI is truly horrendous, and the glitches abound. However, as a CNC fan, there are plenty of times where you forget all that, such as when you're calling in an ion cannon strike on a Nod base, or tearing up your enemies with a mammoth tank. The playable character, Havoc, utters one-liners taken straight from the 1995 game.
Could have done it left-handed.
It's moments like this that make you truly appreciate what Westwood was attempting to do with such an ambitious project. But where the game truly shines, and why it was such a special part of my childhood, is the multiplayer. A glorious mashup of base destruction, tank warfare, frantic infantry fights, and the opportunity to work as a team or a lone wolf. At the time of release in 2002, there was nothing else in the market that could be compared to it. The closest thing at the time was probably Battlefield 1942, a game much bigger in scope but utilizing a completely different formula for its gameplay. To this day, the only other games with similar mechanics are the PlanetSide games, and of course, the fan-made remake Renegade X. Renegade's multiplayer is known as CNC mode for obvious reasons. Each team, GDI and Nod respectively, starts with a base, including buildings straight out of the RTS games, a barracks, vehicle factory, power plant, refinery, and of course base defenses. The buildings vary slightly by team, just like they did in the original Command & Conquer, which Renegade is based on. GDI has a barracks and weapons factory for its units, while the Brotherhood of Nod utilizes a Hand of Nod and an airstrip. Nod's primary base defense is a huge laser cannon known as the Obelisk of Light, but GDI takes a traditional approach in the AGT, or Advanced Guard Tower, a stout tower complete with machine guns and missile launchers. Both defenses have pros and cons that allow for different strategies depending on which side you're playing on. There are 3 ways to win in CNC mode: annihilating the enemy base, plant a super weapon beacon in a special spot known as the pedestal, or simply have the most points when the match time expires. Where it starts to get interesting is each building grants you access to a different aspect of the game. If you lose your barracks, you can no longer purchase advanced infantry, lose your vehicle factory, and say goodbye to your tanks. Without power, your base defenses won't work and everything becomes double the price, but without your refinery, you will no longer receive a steady credit income to purchase units. All of these things are something you would deal with while playing a classic RTS game, and yet Westwood managed to implement these concepts into a first-person shooter and create a fresh experience. All of the infantry, vehicles, and super weapons in the game are available to purchase using in-game credits via a purchase terminal. These terminals can be found all throughout the buildings in your base. In Renegade, you play as the units in the game, be it Commando, Rocket Trooper, Engineer, and many more created specifically for the game. When you buy a tank, you get to drive said tank. The super weapons are handled by a beacon system. Essentially, you buy either a nuclear strike beacon or an ion cannon beacon, which you then have to plant near an enemy building. Everyone will get a notification that the beacon has been planted and the enemy team has 48 seconds to find and disarm the bomb.
Ion cannon beacon deployed.
Otherwise, their building is destroyed in epic fashion by either a nuclear missile or a giant space laser. Like I mentioned earlier, successfully detonating a super weapon on the pedestal will automatically win the game. The gunplay in CNC Renegade is quite basic. None of the weapons have ADS with the exception of sniper rifles, and there is no recoil to speak of, and yet there is still a skill gap. The gunfights are chaotic, with players jumping around attempting to avoid gunfire, all while still trying to get enough shots onto the enemy to kill them. Aiming for the head doubles the damage, and a veteran player can make quick work of his enemies. There is nothing more satisfying than entering the fray with a sniper rifle and proceeding to cleanly eliminate the enemy team with precise no-scope headshots. All of this was quite revolutionary for the time, and provided a super fun multiplayer experience, but that's not even the best part. and a move that is practically unheard of in today's video game ecosystem, Westwood Studios released a set of mod tools that allowed players to modify practically every aspect of their game. You could tweak everything and anything using their SDK. How much ammo was in the guns, health, what types of rounds they fired, the speed of vehicles, game physics, and so much more. You could create entirely new models, characters, weapons, vehicles, and levels in the free-to-use 3D Model Designer Gmax, and then export them in a file type recognized by the game engine using a plugin created by the developers themselves. Now, I realize Renegade wasn't the first game to do this. Mod tools have been a thing for years, but it was the first game that I got actively involved in the modding community. I was even a member of a few mod teams, and attempted to start my own project, a mod to bring Red Alert 2 units to Renegade. It never panned out, and unfortunately I lost all of my old models, but I do have this one rad picture of an Apocalypse tank model. The community was amazing. I met people from all over the world, a guy from England whom I partnered up with for the Red Alert 2 mod, people from Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, Germany, and even the Barons of Wisconsin. I'm actually still friends with that last guy on Facebook to this day. Even though my mod never panned out, there were others that were wildly successful. The biggest one probably being A Path Beyond, which is a Red Alert conversion for Renegade. It was amazing, bringing the Red Alert universe to an FPS game in a way that for all intents and purposes should have been impossible on the engine. They really pushed it to the limits. Another popular mod called CNC Reborn brought Tiberian Sun, which might be the best game in the franchise, to a shooter platform. Modders didn't just create standalone games though, they also contributed heavily to the vanilla Renegade experience. After finding tons of unused assets in the game files, people started to figure out how to implement mods on the server side. This allowed anyone who joined to experience these things. New vehicles, buildings, and player skins that could be added to maps without anyone having to download a patch or mod files. This could also be used to limit what units you could buy depending on which server you were in. This was great for sniper-only servers or infantry-only servers because it was entirely an honor-based system before that, and there was plenty of trolls that would gun you down with a machine gun in a sniper-only match. There was even a guy who wrote scripts that completely altered the game engine, allowing mod teams to do things that the devs themselves said to be impossible, such as deployable vehicles like the Mad tank from Red Alert 1, or showing characters in the seats of a Jeep. He even released an unofficial patch with these scripts that improved the original game, and this was years after the release. I was playing this game into my 20s, almost 8 years after release. You can still find a full server to this day if you get on at the right time. In fact, when EA shut down the official Command & Conquer servers, the community stepped up and provided a solution to host all of the old games. And this allowed players to still connect to the server browser after downloading a patch. In retrospect, Command & Conquer is one of the greatest gaming communities I've ever been a part of, and it will always represent a special time in my life. I've heard rumblings of a remake of the original coming by 2020, but I am skeptical and worried that they will ruin it. Only time will tell.